Okay, so have you ever wondered how a huge airline manages to lock in a price for its jet fuel like years before they even need it? Or how a farmer can guarantee a price for their wheat before it's even grown? Well, they do it with this powerful and honestly often misunderstood financial tool called a derivative. And over the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain and make it all make sense. Let's dive in. Right? It sounds like the start of a really weird joke, but the answer to this question gets you right to the very heart of why derivatives were even invented in the first place. See, they were both facing the exact same problem, a problem that's been around forever and needed a really clever solution. And that problem? It's simple, really. The future is a giant question mark. Just imagine you're a farmer. You plant your seeds in the spring, but you have no idea what the price of your crop will be when you harvest in the fall. I mean, what if the price totally collapses in those 6 months? You could lose everything. That's a huge, terrifying risk. And for centuries, people have been trying to figure out a way to protect themselves from it. And what's so fascinating here is that this kind of financial thinking isn't some newfangled Wall Street invention. Not at all. People have been making these kinds of deals to manage future risk for almost 1,000 years. And yeah, those 13th century monks, get this, they were selling their monastery's wool crop up to 20 years in advance just to lock in a price. From ancient Japanese rice markets all the way to the founding of the Chicago Board of Trade, the goal has always been exactly the same: find a way to create a little bit of certainty in a totally uncertain world. So, what was this brilliantly simple solution they all kind of stumbled upon? Well, at its core, it was basically just a promise that was written down into the very first type of derivative contract. They called it a forward contract. You can think of it like a formal binding handshake. It's pretty straightforward. One person agrees to sell something, the other agrees to buy it. But the key is, they agree on a price today for a sale that will happen way down the road. It literally doesn't matter if the market price goes to the moon or crashes through the floor by then. Their deal is locked in. Just like that, the risk of the unknown is gone. And that right there brings us to the formal definition. See, a forward contract is a type of derivative because its value isn't based on what it is, it's just paper after all. Its value is entirely derived from the value of something else, and that something else is called the underlying asset. That's the whole ballgame. The contract's value is tied to something real. And that something else can be almost anything you can think of that has a price that moves around. We're talking physical stuff like gold or crude oil, agricultural goods, like the monk's wool or the farmer's wheat. Or it can be purely financial things, like company stocks, bonds, or even different currencies. Now, those early forward contracts were a brilliant idea, but they had one massive flaw. They were just private promises between two people. So what happens if the other guy can't pay up or just decides not to? This is what we call counterparty risk, and it was a huge problem that led to the next big leap in finance, the move from these private handshakes to big public regulated exchanges. And this was an absolute game changer. In 1865, the Chicago Board of Trade completely revolutionized the financial world by taking that basic idea of a private forward contract and making it public, making it standardized, and most importantly, making it trustworthy. This was really the birth of the derivatives market as we know it today. And they called this new thing a futures contract. The secret sauce here was standardization. Every contract for, say, December wheat was for the exact same amount, the same quality, and it expired on the very same day. This made them interchangeable, which meant they could be bought and sold by anyone, anytime, in an instant. And this just lays it all out perfectly. Forwards are these custom-made, private deals where you're always kind of worried, what if the other person bails? That's the counterparty risk. But futures, they're standardized and traded out in the open on an exchange. And here's the magic trick. The exchange itself guarantees the contract. If the person on the other side of your trade goes bankrupt, it doesn't matter. The exchange steps in to make you whole. This made the entire system way, way safer. But of course, the innovation didn't stop there. As the financial world got more and more complex, people needed more specialized tools. This led to the creation of a whole modern toolkit of derivatives, with each one designed to do a very specific job. Okay, first up, you've got options. Think of this as paying a little bit of money for a whole lot of flexibility. A futures contract, remember, is a binding obligation. You're locked in. But an option gives you the right to buy or sell at a set price, but not the obligation. So if the market moves in your favor, great, you use the option and make a profit. But if it goes against you, you can just walk away. The most you lose is the small fee you paid for the option. It's like insurance with a built-in escape hatch.
Then you have swaps. Now, these are super useful for big companies and institutions. Let's say a company has a loan with a really risky, unpredictable floating interest rate. They can use a swap to trade those unpredictable payments with a bank for a nice, steady, fixed payment. Boom. They've just completely neutralized their interest rate risk. It's an incredibly powerful way to create stability.
So who are the people actually using all these sophisticated tools? Well, it turns out there are pretty much three main types of players in the derivatives market, and each one is there for a completely different reason. First, you've got the hedger. This is the person we've been talking about from the beginning, the spiritual descendant of our farmer and our 13th century monk. They're the risk avoiders.
A hedger shows up to the market because they already have a real-world risk they desperately want to get rid of. It could be an airline worried about fuel prices going up, or a global company that knows it needs to buy a bunch of euros in 3 months. By using a derivative, they lock in a price today and can completely stop worrying about it. They can sleep at night because they've hedged their risk.
Now, on the complete other side of that trade, you will almost always find the speculator. And if the hedger is running away from risk, the speculator is running straight towards it with open arms. See, speculators are absolutely vital to the market because they're the ones who willingly take on the risk that the hedgers are trying to offload. They aren't protecting a business, they are simply betting on where they think prices are going to go. And they often use leverage, which means a small amount of money can control a huge position. That can amplify your gains like crazy, but, and this is a big but, it can also amplify your losses just as fast. And finally, there's the third player, the arbitrager. You can think of these folks as the market's efficiency experts. They're all about profiting from tiny, temporary imperfections in the system. An arbitrageur is constantly scanning for tiny price differences. Let's say gold is trading for just a fraction of a penny cheaper in London than it is in New York. They will instantly buy it in London and sell it in New York, all at the same time, for a small, basically risk-free profit. And in doing that, their actions immediately help pull those prices back into line, which makes the whole market more efficient for everybody else. So, we've got these incredibly powerful tools and this dynamic mix of players. But it is absolutely essential to understand that these tools are double-edged swords. For all their benefits, they carry some very real and sometimes very big risks. On the one hand, they do amazing things for the global economy. They help us discover what the market thinks things will be worth in the future. They provide this incredibly efficient way to transfer risk from someone who can't afford it to someone willing to take it. And they bring a lot of trades out of the shadows and into regulated markets, which adds stability. But, and you knew there was a but, on the other hand, the risks are very, very real. The market can move against you so fast it makes your head spin, creating devastating losses. There's still a risk the other party could default, especially in those private over-the-counter trades. Or maybe you just can't find anyone to buy your position when you need to get out. And then there's always the risk of simple human error, fraud, or changing rules. Which leaves us with a big question. What are they, really? Are derivatives essential tools that allow our entire modern economy to function by managing risk? Or are they just a high-stakes global casino fueling dangerous speculation? You know, the truth, as it so often does, probably lies somewhere in the middle. And it's that very tension that continues to shape our entire financial world.